The Viking Age, which spanned from the late 8th to the early 11th century, is a story written on water. The key to this entire era was the remarkable vessel the Vikings created, the longship. These ships were not just boats, they were technological marvels of their time, perfectly designed for the needs of their creators. Their sleek and narrow shape allowed them to cut through the waves with incredible speed. Unlike many other ships of the period, they had a very shallow draft. This meant they could sail in deep oceans but also navigate far up shallow rivers, giving them unparalleled access to new lands and unsuspecting towns far from the coast. Building these magnificent ships required immense skill and knowledge passed down through generations. Viking shipwrights used a special technique called clinker building. They would overlap strong oak planks, one on top of the other, and fasten them together with iron rivets. To make the hull waterproof, they stuffed the gaps between the planks with animal hair or wool mixed with sticky tar. This method made the ships both incredibly strong and surprisingly flexible. This flexibility was crucial, as it allowed the longship to bend and move with the force of the powerful North Atlantic waves, rather than breaking apart under the strain. The longship's power came from two sources, making it exceptionally versatile. A single, large square sail, often made of wool, could catch the wind to carry the ship across vast distances of open water. This allowed the Vikings to travel faster and farther than ever before. But when the wind died down, or when they needed to move with stealth and precision up a winding river, the crew would take to the oars. A full crew of Viking warriors could row in unison, turning their ship into a fast and maneuverable weapon. This dual propulsion system gave them a massive advantage in both travel and warfare. The design of the longship was a direct reflection of its purpose. It was a multi-purpose vessel built for raiding, trading, exploration and colonization. The open design of the hull meant it could carry a large crew of warriors, goods for trade, or settlers and their livestock. The symmetrical bow and stern, often carved into the fearsome shape of a dragon's head, allowed the ship to reverse direction quickly without having to turn around. This was especially useful in narrow fjords or when making a quick escape. The longship was more than just a boat. It was the engine of the Viking Age. The great Viking expansion was not born from a single cause, but from a complex mix of pressures and opportunities. Back home in Scandinavia, life was becoming difficult. The population was growing, but the amount of good, farmable land was limited. Rocky terrain and cold climates meant that many families struggled to produce enough food to survive. This scarcity created intense competition for resources and pushed many to look beyond their own shores for new ways to build wealth and secure their future. The sea offered a pathway to a better life, a chance to find new lands and acquire the resources they lacked at home. Beyond simple economic need, Viking society was driven by a powerful desire for honor and prestige. It was a world led by chieftains and local kings, where a leader's reputation was everything. To gain the loyalty of their followers, a chieftain needed to be generous, providing them with gifts of silver, weapons and land. The easiest and quickest way to acquire this wealth was through successful raids on richer, more developed lands like England and France. A successful expedition brought not only material riches, but also immense fame and respect, attracting more warriors to a chieftain's side and strengthening their political power at home. The political situation in the rest of Europe also created a perfect opportunity for the Vikings to strike. Many kingdoms were internally divided and politically weak. Charlemagne's great empire, for example, had fractured after his death, leaving its coastlines vulnerable. The kingdoms in England were often at war with one another, unable to mount a united defence against the swift surprise attacks of the Viking longships. The Vikings were skilled opportunists who saw these weaknesses and expertly exploited them, launching raids on monasteries and towns that were wealthy but poorly defended, making for easy and profitable targets. Finally, there was a genuine spirit of adventure and discovery that fueled the Viking Age. While many sailed for wealth or land, others were driven by a deep curiosity to see what lay beyond the horizon. The Vikings were master storytellers, and tales of new islands and distant shores surely inspired many young men to join expeditions. This drive to explore pushed them to the icy coasts of Iceland and Greenland, and eventually all the way to the shores of North America, centuries before Columbus. It was this combination of need, ambition, political opportunity, and a thirst for the unknown that launched 1,000 ships. The arrival of Viking longships on the coasts of Europe had a profound and lasting impact, changing the continent's cultural, economic, and political landscape forever. Through their naval activities, the Vikings became powerful agents of change. They were not just raiders, they were also traders and settlers who connected different parts of the world in new ways. They established vast and complex trade networks that stretched from the North Atlantic all the way to the Byzantine Empire and the Middle East. Through these routes, goods like fur, amber and slaves from the north were exchanged for silver, silks and spices from the east, stimulating economic growth across the continent. One of the most visible impacts of the Viking presence was the founding of new towns and cities that became major centres of commerce and culture. In Ireland, the Vikings established the settlement of Dublin, which grew from a small naval base into a thriving international port. In England, they took control of the city of York and made it the capital of their northern kingdom. Further east, Swedish Vikings, known as the Rus, travelled down the great rivers of Russia and Ukraine, founding cities like Kiev and Novgorod. These settlements became melting pots where Scandinavian, Slavic and other cultures mixed, creating vibrant new societies. The political map of Europe was also redrawn by Viking naval power. In England, years of raiding eventually turned into full-scale invasion and settlement, leading to the creation of a large territory known as the Danelaw, where Viking laws and customs held sway. In France, after years of attacks on Paris and other cities, the French king granted the Viking leader Rollo a large piece of land to control. This region became known as Normandy, the land of the Northmen, and its people, the Normans, would later go on to conquer England themselves in 1066, a direct consequence of Viking settlement. Over time, the constant threat of Viking raids forced European kingdoms to adapt and become stronger. Kings and local lords had to build new fortifications, raise standing armies, and develop navies of their own to defend their coastlines. This process helped to centralize political power and laid the foundations for the more organized nation-states of the later Middle Ages. In this way, the Vikings acted as a catalyst for political change, not only by creating new states, but also by compelling existing ones to become more organized and powerful in order to survive. The legacy of Viking naval dominance did not end when the last longship was beached. Its influence continued to ripple through the centuries, shaping the future of maritime exploration and the cultures of the North Sea region. The shipbuilding techniques and navigational skills honed by the Vikings were not lost. They were passed down and built upon by later generations of sailors. The maritime traditions they established in the North Sea and the Baltic laid the groundwork for future trading networks, such as the powerful Hanseatic League, which dominated regional trade in the later Middle Ages. The Viking spirit of exploration also had a profound long-term impact. Their incredible voyages to Iceland, Greenland, and North America demonstrated what was possible with sturdy ships and brave crews, pushing the boundaries of the known world. This tradition of daring, long-distance sea travel arguably influenced the great European age of exploration centuries later. Explorers like Columbus and Magellan may not have known the specifics of the Viking journeys, but they were part of a European culture where the sea was seen as a path to discovery and wealth, a mindset the Vikings had helped to forge. The cultural and linguistic impact of the Vikings is still evident today, especially in the places they settled. In the English language, hundreds of common words, including sky, skin, leg, window, and even the day Thursday, Thor's Day, have their roots in the Old Norse language spoken by the Viking settlers. Many place names in northern and eastern England, such as those ending in by for village or thorp for outlying farm, are a direct reminder of the time when these areas were part of the Danelaw. These linguistic footprints show how deeply the Vikings became integrated into the societies they once raided. In summary, the Vikings were true masters of the sea. Their advanced longships and exceptional navigational abilities allowed them to travel farther and faster than any of their contemporaries. Driven by a combination of economic necessity, political ambition, and a spirit of adventure, they used their naval power to raid, trade, and settle across a vast area. In doing so, they not only amassed wealth and fame, but also fundamentally reshaped Europe's economy, politics, and culture. The wake of their longships can still be seen today in our languages, our maps, and our shared history of exploration.